total number of cases had grown to over 31,000 across the world.
The hugely exponential manner in which it has spread, there is now a sense of alarm.
If it comes too quickly, then health services get overwhelmed and they can't cope, and mortality rates increase.
Humans have no immunity to this virus because they've never been exposed to it before.
As more and more countries implemented strict quarantine and community controls to stem the spread of the new coronavirus, scientists were in a race against time to create a vaccine.
A vaccine is something that's generally injected and it prevents infection. So if you're given this, it will protect you from infection with a particular virus. The way a vaccine works, you're given a part or an inactivated version of that virus. Your body raises an immune response against that, and it remembers that. So if you come across that virus again in months or even years' time, that response is much quicker and protects you against that virus.
There are many components involved in making a vaccine. Scientists at this lab in Oxford in England are focused on creating the antigen. An antigen is the protein on the surface of the virus that causes your immune system to react. A key part of a vaccine, an antigen triggers your body to go into defense mode.
As soon as the sequence of the virus was available, we've used that to synthesize some of the proteins from the surface of the virus. We can make and purify the protein and then make that available to researchers, vaccine companies, diagnostic companies around the world to use.
Once an antigen is available, there are still many complex scientific steps in vaccine development, including animal testing, before very carefully controlled tests on humans are conducted to ensure it is safe and effective. Only then could a potential vaccine be offered to the public.
There are candidate vaccines available, but they will have to go through the process of clinical trials before this can be said it's safe for use anywhere in the world.
In the urgent pursuit of a defense against COVID-19, a host of vaccines with different ways of generating immunity were being developed. Amongst the candidates is one designed around the virus's characteristic spike protein, which it uses to latch onto and infect human cells. The hope is that the vaccine will train our immune systems to recognize and respond to these proteins on the virus. The complexity of developing long-lasting protection means that it will be many months before a vaccine can be administered to the general public. The task is potentially made even more challenging, as viruses are often able to mutate. And once this takes place, a vaccine developed for a specific strain of a virus may then prove ineffective.
Viruses mutate in nature because sometimes when they reproduce, they make a mistake. And then that's conserved in the DNA and the genetics of that organism, and it continues in future generations. Another way is an abrupt reassortment episode when there's a confusion between two viruses in the same cell, and they end up combining their material in a certain way that causes a new virus.
Already some scientists in Beijing claim that the virus has evolved into two distinct strands, the L-type and the S-type. The S-type, being the first strain, was likely to have emerged when the virus jumped from animals to humans. The L-type emerging soon after that, but is, according to researchers, the more prevalent strand. But others, including the World Health Organization, say such mutations are normal in any virus and are insignificant. It also does not seem to affect the way the virus works and the symptoms it causes. In parallel to the pursuit of vaccines, a huge range of other clinical approaches were being rapidly trialled, including repurposing existing medicines. These therapies include some novel strategies, such as using the blood plasma of recovered patients.
In their body, they have this molecule called antibody in their blood. This can prevent the virus to infect other people or at least reduce the symptom. Basically, you have these recovered patients donate the blood after purification and give to existing patients.
But several risks remain with its technique, and more research is needed to understand just how effective and safe it is.
Using these sort of therapies, it's very difficult to scale up, and it would be hard to imagine how you can treat thousands of people in this way.
Another approach doctors were trying involves antivirals, a class of medications that fight viruses by suppressing their ability to replicate inside the host.
If we can find an antiviral treatment that works, then this will definitely be a game changer, because, if you've got a treatment for a disease, then obviously the implications of spread are far different.
In Wuhan, some of the first patients to become seriously ill were starting to make a recovery. After receiving respiratory support and a course of injections of antibodies to help his immune system, there was hope for Wang Wei's father.
就是呼吸，在治疗的过程中，能够自主呼吸，或者是吃饭吃得越来越多。
Wang Wei's father was discharged back home, but his parents remained cautious.
对的，我爸爸出院之后，我妈妈还跟他在家里面分开居住到现在，就是他们处于一个很积极的状态，每天还是很开心，在治疗成功之后。
Wang Wei's father was one of the fortunate ones, thanks to medical treatment for the symptoms. Meanwhile, as the world waited for a vaccine, more practical immediate solutions were put in place. Thorough hand washing with soap, or the use of hand sanitizers, became the mantra to prevent the easy spread of the virus. Contact tracing was stepped up, with suspect cases placed under quarantine. For the rest of us, social distancing was encouraged to limit the possible spread of the virus. And in some countries, government-sanctioned curfews were imposed.
This is a disease spread through the community, and therefore the solution lies with the community, and the community has to be honest. If you're a contact and you're put in quarantine, please comply. Practice the cough etiquette, practice the social distancing.
Social distancing has been established as a vital intervention to delay the peak of the outbreak. Because of the exponential scale at which the virus spreads, even a partial reduction in contacts can lead to a huge drop in transmission. If an average person infects another 2.5 people, after 30 days, some 406 people would be infected from the one original case. But if social distancing can just halve the number of transmissions from day one, after 30 days, only 15 people would be infected.
There's so much that the community can do to combat this, and this sort of community engagement needs to be, another aspect.
By early March, a tipping point was reached. The number of cases outside of China was growing faster than in China itself. It was bearing the hallmarks of a pandemic. How that would play out may be affected by seasonality. In the past, changes in weather have helped curb diseases.
I don't think it's the Chinese New Year, the mass movement that triggered the outbreak. Instead, it's the winter seasons and the live animal market activities. Because the virus survives in the environment longer under colder environment.
This theory implies that cold winter conditions have favored the spread of the virus and suggests that it could return in the Northern Hemisphere's winter. But the science is uncertain, and others doubt the virus is weather dependent.
Will it come back next Northern Hemisphere winter? That is suggesting that it's going to go away, and I would argue that that's unlikely. I think we can continue to anticipate future epicentres.
The complete eradication of a virus is hard to achieve. Even if this coronavirus was somehow to be eradicated among humans, if it continues to survive in its natural form in animal hosts, the re-emergence back into humans again is possible. And it could in fact establish itself as a common respiratory virus.
The SARS emergence is thought to have been a one-time event, and it's thought now that it's gone from natural occurrence It's not clear what the outcome will be, but that's the danger of these emerging infections. It's not what's known, it's what's not known. Their potential is never known when they first emerge.
The SARS outbreak in 2003 took the world by surprise. It lasted a total of 9 months before the virus was eradicated worldwide. Experts predict that the SARS-CoV-19 and its attendant disease could persist for much longer. But it seems the countries that were directly affected by the SARS outbreak have now emerged stronger, implementing key containment strategies swiftly.
We've learned that communication is vital, that sharing of information is vital.
Conventional outbreak response efforts work, and it has to be done with speed and rigor and thoroughness, and it has to be done with full community engagement.
If we don't change the way we live, we farm, we eat, then it's going to happen again and again.
By the end of March, there was a faint glimmer of hope for those back at Ground Zero in Wuhan.
We definitely are seeing the numbers drastically coming down. Chinese people really treated this as a war with this invisible enemy, right? So we definitely feel we're very close to having it defeated.
With a sharp drop in new domestic cases of COVID-19, China was beginning to gain the upper hand against the virus. As it emerged, seemingly on the other side of the battle, scarred, shaken but optimistic, the country offered its hard-earned expertise to the rest of the world, whose fight against the virus had only just begun. While other countries struggled under ever higher case numbers, China and even Wuhan began a tentative return to normality. Residents were allowed to leave their compounds for the first time in many weeks, and business began to resume.
It's definitely liberating, after almost 2 months of quarantine, to be able to even, walk outside within your neighborhood. People still are going to wear facial masks going out. They're still going to keep their social distancing, because now everybody in Wuhan feels a responsibility to not let something like this happen again.
The city was gradually reopening itself, even as the rest of the world was closing down. For now, China's aggressive actions appear to have blunted the threat. If the rest of the world can impose strict measures, the bleakest predictions may not materialize. The search for a vaccine against COVID-19 will take some time, and there is no guarantee one will work. That's why experts say the best protection against a viral outbreak may not lie in research labs.
It's very wrong to think that medical science can stop an outbreak. What can stop an outbreak is behavioral science. People understanding what's causing the infection and how they can protect themselves. That's the best way forward, the best way to stop an outbreak.
Yeah.